Hello, lovelies. Happy Friday. It is the 21st of May. How are things going for you in your journey through May? 31 days in May. I guess we only have 10 days left. So fun. Doesn't mean you have to stop at the end of the month, right? So today I want to talk about the number one ingredient, the number one key skill to have to really lose the weight for the last time and keep it off for the rest of your life effortlessly, right? Just be done with all of this bullshit and create an amazing life. Do the things you want to do. Quit focusing all your mental energy on this. Okay. And now, if you're not following along with losing weight for the last time, this is going to help you in other areas as well, like as far as desire. So, we're going to talk about desire here first. So, it is super important to understand the difference between treating the symptom of overeating by resisting it and treating the cause, which is the over desire. Okay. Our desire for food is based on a very healthy release of dopamine in the brain, right? Our desire comes from that subtle reward that healthy food provides for us and and the satisfaction of hunger, right? So our desire also comes from cultural conditioning and the beliefs around us about what is normal eating and how much enjoyment we should be entitled to get from food. So when we eat foods that unnaturally release the dopamine, we get much more desire than we really need for food. Our desire is artificially increased beyond our evolved ability to satisfy or even understand. So, when we try to cut back our food in order to lose weight, AKA dieting, without addressing the issue of desire, we actually increase that desire for food by withholding it. So, that's why our willpower always seems to be so low. So, often my clients will tell me that they'll feel as if they're eating against their own will or that they're out of control. And the truth is that we just don't understand that false desire is making our brain run this thought error, creating an urgency and an importance for food that's just completely unwarranted. Okay. The ultimate goal is to reduce the desire for overeating. So when the desire's gone, you aren't going to have any need for willpower or extra effort to resist the overeating. Okay. So willpower is when we try to resist the urges to overeat. It's temporary and limited if your reason for stopping isn't compelling enough, right? Willpower isn't always on will call. That's something I heard a lot. Your reason, the why, can override the willpower easily if your commitment is important enough. Okay. But we're not using willpower here. There's something called now appeal. Okay. Our brains have evolved to believe that pleasure now is good. And if it feels good now, it must be good. But because our brain hasn't changed to adapt to our environment, we have to use our prefrontal cortex to overcome that conditioning of the primal brain and the motivational triad that we've talked about before. And the only time this works is when we're only eating foods our bodies were designed and adapted to process, right? So delaying pleasure. So our ability to delay pleasure, especially artificial pleasure, is a function of our prefrontal cortex, right? It's the privilege of being human to be able to think about what we think about, to override our immediate and the animalistic desires for our long term well being, our ability to provide for the future, right? So, once we understand how all of these are at play, we can manage them from our highest level of consciousness. We can decide to delay despite that now appeal, and we can make it easier by reducing the need for willpower with high level conscious reasons to change. So, There are three things you can do with an urge or a feeling, right? This is about feelings too. An urge is simply a feeling we create in our body through our thoughts. So there's three things: you can resist it, you can avoid it, or you can allow it and process it. Okay. You can also react to it. So I guess there's actually four. So the goal in the weight loss journey is to learn how to allow and process emotion, allow and process the urges. We have a misconception that feelings should be good and comfortable most of the time, right? And this idea is what really ironically perpetuates our misery. So when we learn how to truly process our emotion confidently, we stop needing to escape with food. We become less afraid to feel anything. When we're not afraid to feel, everything we do is done with courage. So being able to stay present with our emotions and urges takes practice. And it's one of the practices we can utilize to overcome those thought errors and urges, because all urges are caused by thoughts. But initially, those thoughts are part of an unconscious loop, right? So, the best way to make those conscious is to accumulate allowed urges. So, what that means is when an urge comes up, you want to be aware of it. You want to know, what are you thinking, right? And how you managed it. So, after the urge, after you've either resisted, which is using the willpower, right? Or you reacted to it by eating the thing, right? Or you avoided it. And that's kind of a bit of a resisting it, right? Like you're avoiding it, you're pushing it away, you're trying to distract yourself with other things. But what you want to learn is the skill to allow urges, to feel any emotion. When you're willing to feel any emotion, there's nothing you're unwilling to do. So, a lot of our overeating is emotional, right? We want to avoid feelings. How many times have you reached for food when you were feeling stressed or anxious or overwhelmed or sad, right? I think the biggest thought error of all is this belief that we are supposed to be happy all the time. That is the one disservice, the one thing that I think just messes us up, because we think we're supposed to be happy. So we're always in this pursuit of happiness and it's unattainable. So we've got this artificial, like elevated false pleasure we get from overeating foods. When if we're just willing to feel sad or feel stressed or feel overwhelmed or feel an urge without responding, right? Then we don't even have to solve for the overeating or the overweight. We'll just naturally condition ourselves to become our natural weight, our ideal weight. Okay? So, here's some things to consider, right? Some questions when you are managing urges, right? When you are learning to become aware of your urges, to become aware of the thoughts that are creating your urges. So, here are some questions for urges that you can think about. So, the first thing, what exactly does an urge feel like when it first appears? So, ask yourself that. Like for me, it feels like kind of like a heat, like a clenching, like a, oh, something's coming up, like an anticipation, but not so much in a good way. Right? And then think about, what does it feel like when you try to resist it? Right? Think about resisting. I just always think about white knuckling, like, oh, I got to resist this. I'm unwilling to even look at it. Right? And then what does it feel like when you react and kind of obey your urge? right? And you're like, oh, I have an urge to eat another piece of pizza. So last night, I attended an event and I had made a decision for myself that at events, I'm going to have one glass of wine if I choose to even have wine. And I decided I would have one glass of wine. And when I finished, I noticed I had an urge to order another glass. And I said, well, that's so, um, what's the word? That's so habitual, right? Like, I'm like, oh yeah, that's my pattern. I haven't been to an in-person event in over a year, right? It's easy to like notice urges at home and work on them at home, but now I'm in this environment where in the past I probably would have had two or three glasses, right? And a friend had ordered an appetizer for the table, and when it came, she's like, oh, everyone please share. And I noticed the urge, like, well, yeah, I have an urge to eat that breadstick and dip it in that sauce. That looks amazing. And instead of resisting the urge, I allowed it to be with me. I got really curious about it. Of course, I'm going to have an urge, right? Notice the justifying that my brain was doing, or it's just one more glass of wine, or it's just some breadsticks. You haven't eaten those in such a long time. You deserve that. Your friend offered, you should take them. And I just noticed it. And then I became much more focused on the conversations around me and the being in person with people I hadn't seen in well over a year, and the pleasure I got from being with these people and seeing their faces and listening to their conversations and what's been going on and connecting with new people and really embracing that pleasure instead of resisting the urge to overdrink or overeat or eat off plan, right? I just allowed it to be there. And it's such a beautiful thing. And then I was just rewarded by allowing that urge. We talked about the urge jar previously. It's about every time you allow an urge to give yourself a little reward with a little glass bead in a jar. And that's what the urge worksheet is for too. Like, notice your urges, notice when you allowed it. How did you feel? Becoming so much more aware of what's going on in our brains. Like, my body wasn't hungry. My body did not need food. My brain was trying to argue for food, and I'm noticing it and accepting it and saying, oh, I see that you're arguing for this food and this extra glass of wine. Your opinion is noted, but we're not going that way anymore, right? So you really describe that to yourself. How does it feel? When do you notice the urge? Like, I didn't have an urge to eat until that basket was set on the table. And all it is a circumstance. There's a basket of breadsticks there. So what? What do you make that mean? Right? Whatever thought comes up is what created the urge. The basket of breadsticks did not create the urge for me. It was my thought about it. And just getting really curious and really compassionate with that, with myself too. Right? So think about, what is your most common thought error that causes overeating, right? One of my most common is like, oh, I deserve this. It goes back to diet brain. I've been so good, right? That's diet brain. Do you have some diet thinking to clean up? Okay, there are no bad foods, and you're not good if you're eating on your protocol, right? You're just keeping your word to yourself, which can give you such a sense of pride when you think of it that way. Um, and then the next question, what would the process of allowing an urge be like for you? How would your thoughts change? How would your feelings change? And then how would your actions change? And then how would your results change, right? So allowing the urge of, say, the extra glass of wine or the basket of breadsticks, noticing it without resisting it allowed me to take a look at what are those thoughts that I'm having? What are the thought errors that are creating the desire to have that? And noticing them. And then what are my thoughts that are changing? Like, I am someone who has one glass of wine at a networking event and enjoys the glass of wine, right? And then my feeling was confident, proud, satisfied. Like, I was just satisfied, right? Doesn't it feel nice just to feel satisfied? So then my actions changed by I was more engaged in the conversations around me. I didn't, eat that thing or drink that glass, right? So then my results changed by like I kept my word to myself. It's a beautiful thing to feel so proud of keeping your word to yourself. Um, so what is a skill you would need to develop to feel instead of eat? And then describe it for yourself. For me, it's confidence. Okay. I talk a lot about confidence and having the confidence in myself, knowing that this is not a problem. I'm confident that I'm someone who doesn't allow food to control her or alcohol to control her. I was in 100% control of myself. I love the feeling of confidence. I love um the skill of just allowing, noticing without beating myself up, without judging myself. Now, what if I had ordered a second glass of wine, right? What I would want to do then is not judge myself or beat myself up. It would have been to get really curious. Melanie, why were you thinking you really wanted that glass of wine? Maybe I just wanted it. So it's like, Melanie, why? Just because you wanted it, what was going on for you that maybe you felt you needed it? Right? And get really curious. And then the last one, which is a beautiful, beautiful thing for all of us to explore, is how would this skill serve you in other areas of your life? So if you develop the skill to feel instead of eat, how would that skill of feeling emotion serve you in other areas of your life? That is the basis for every other area of our life, right? If you think about it, think about your relationships, your ability to feel maybe some irritation or anger instead of reacting to it with maybe a partner or your children, the skill of feeling fear in your business, right? That skill of allowing that feeling of fear to be there, even when you click live on a Facebook, right? Something like that. When you have a presentation, we think we need to get rid of the fear. We think we need to get rid of whatever feeling it is before we can proceed. What if you just bring it along for the ride? Right? Again, that fear is going to come waltzing in the door, making everything an emergency feel like an emergency, right? You're like, no, I see you and I hear you. I know why you're here, fear. You want to keep me safe and protected. But here's the thing, this presentation is not going to kill me. Nobody's going to die, right? This is not an emergency, right? I don't need to hide back in the cave, right? You can just bring it along. Your opinion is noted. You can have a seat in the corner. Okay. So it can serve you in all kinds of other areas. And think of how many times you have allowed an urge. Think about when you're driving and someone cuts you off. How many times have you had the urge to hit the gas or cut them back off or maybe hit the horn, right? Sometimes we do. Sometimes we react. And sometimes, and that's a perfect time to get curious about that too. Why? What are you making that mean when someone cuts you off or whatever in traffic? Right? Get curious about it. But for the most part, maybe we just learn to allow like that urge and say, that's so curious that I feel the need to honk at this person who just cut me off in traffic, right? Just get really curious. So, um, that is what I have for you today. I don't even know how long I have been talking. So, you guys have an amazing weekend. Uh, Send me a message. Let me know how things are going for you. Let me know if you have any specific questions. Let me know if you are interested in taking this work on a deeper level, on a one-to-one basis to get, what are your thought errors that are creating this overeating or overweight for you, right? Previously, we have talked about hormones and things like that. So, but the feeling work, that is the number one skill that we've never been taught by dieting or restricting, right? So there's so much more involved in this, but I want you to practice the skill of just allowing an urge or allowing a feeling to be there in your body and not resisting and not reacting to it. Okay? Not avoiding it. All right, you guys. I love you. I love you so much. Have an amazing weekend. I'll see ya. Bye.